The woman who makes me a father. I will marry her, no matter who she is.
He rose from the head of the long table, and the whole room went silent. Jun-Yul stood tall. His pale skin looked cold under the chandelier light. His voice was quiet, but it was sharp enough to cut glass. Every man in that room feared him. Every woman in that room wanted him. And tonight, he was about to say something none of them would ever forget. He lifted his glass slowly. He looked across the sea of hungry faces. Then he spoke. "Hear me now," he said. "The day a woman gives me a child, the day someone makes me father, I will marry her. No matter who she is, no matter where she comes from, that is my vow." The room stirred. A ripple moved through the crowd like wind through dry grass. The beautiful women along the wall smiled to themselves. They were already scheming. They were already imagining the empire that could be theirs. They thought the prize would go to the most glamorous, the most cunning, the most striking of them all. But life has a cruel sense of humor. Because he would keep that vow. He truly would. He just never imagined it would belong to the one woman he refused to even look at. Freeze on his cold face right there. Remember this moment, because everything that follows begins right here, in this room, with these words. A vow made in arrogance, a promise made by a man who believed he was in control of everything. He was not in control of anything. He just did not know it yet.
If this opening has you already curious, do me a small favor right now. Tap that like button, hit subscribe, because this story is about to turn in ways you will not see coming. A hidden child, a buried secret, a love no one believed was possible. Trust me, you do not want to miss a single minute of what happens next. So get comfortable, settle in, and let me take you back so you understand exactly who this man truly was.
Jun-Yul ran an empire. Half of it lived in the light. Glittering towers, clean handshakes, signed contracts worth more than most people see in 10 lifetimes. The other half lived in the dark. That was where men whispered his name like a warning. He was untouchable, he was respected, he was feared, and he was utterly, completely frozen inside. There was a reason for the ice in his chest. There always is. Years ago, he had loved someone. He had trusted someone with his whole heart. And that someone had betrayed him, deeply, completely, in a way that broke something inside him forever. He never spoke of it. He buried it so far down that even he forgot it was still bleeding. From that day forward, he treated the heart as a weakness, something for other people, not for him. So he built walls, high ones, cold ones. He built rules that no one was allowed to break. He built a life where no one could get close enough to hurt him twice. He told himself this was strength. He told himself he needed no one. He would sit alone in his vast and silent home at night and think to himself, this is enough, this power, this control. This is all a man needs. But deep down, in a place he refused to visit, something whispered back, "You are so tired of being alone." He never listened to that voice. He drowned it in work, in power, in cold. His days were the same. Meetings before dawn, deals sealed with a nod, threats spoken in a whisper. Men trembled when he entered a room. They chose their words carefully around him. No one dared to be honest with him.
No one dared to get too close. He preferred it that way. Distance was safety. Distance was survival. He had learned young that the people closest to you are the ones who can destroy you. So he kept everyone at arm's length. Family, friends, lovers, everyone. He ate alone most nights, in a dining room built for 100 guests. He would sit at the head of that endless table, one plate, one glass, one man. The servants came and went like ghosts. He barely looked at any of them. To Jun-Yul, people were tools, assets, threats, never simply people. That was how he survived. That was how he ruled. That was how he stayed on top. But survival is not the same thing as living. And somewhere, deep inside, he knew it. And in that glittering, freezing world of his, there was a woman almost no one noticed.
Her name was Martha. She had deep, rich brown skin that glowed like polished mahogany. She was tall. She was fuller in figure. She was curved and soft and strong all at once. She carried herself with a quiet dignity that the loud and glamorous women around her never understood. She managed his household. She kept the impossible running smoothly. When a dinner for 50 needed to appear in 3 hours, Martha made it happen. When his aging grandmother needed care and patience, it was Martha who sat beside her. She read to the old woman. She held her hand. She listened to the same stories 100 times and smiled every single time. Martha did all of this, and she did it while being completely invisible to him. The other women in that house mocked her. They laughed at her size behind manicured hands. They whispered that she did not belong in a place this beautiful. They called her the help. They called her worse when they thought no one could hear. Martha heard every word, every single one. She simply lifted her chin and kept working. She used to think to herself, let them laugh, let them talk. I know my worth, even if no one else in this house can see it. And here's the thing about Martha that no one knew. She was hiding something, something remarkable. There was a sharpness behind those calm eyes, a brilliance she never showed anyone. There was a mind in her that could see patterns others missed, that could solve problems no one else could crack. There was a quiet strength in her that had carried her through more pain than any of them could imagine. She had lost people, she had struggled, she had clawed her way up from nothing, and she had done it all alone, without ever once asking for pity. Her mother had raised her on almost nothing at all. 2 jobs, endless hours, little sleep. Her mother had taught her one thing above all else: never let them see you break. Hold your head high, her mother used to say, no matter what they say about you. They can take your money, they can take your comfort, but they can never take your dignity unless you give it to them, so never give it to them. Martha carried those words in her heart every single day. She had studied late into the night when other children slept. She had taught herself things no one thought to teach her. She had a gift for numbers, for patterns, for seeing the shape of things others missed. But the world had never given her a chance to use it. The world had only seen her face and her size. It had never once bothered to look at her mind. So she took the jobs she could get, and she was excellent at every single one. Because if she was going to be overlooked, she would at least be undeniable at what she did. That was Martha, underestimated by everyone, defeated by no one. Have you ever been the person in the room that everyone overlooked? The one who does all the work and gets none of the credit? The one people walk past like you're part of the furniture? If Martha reminds you of someone, maybe even yourself, then keep that feeling close, because this story is really about being seen, truly seen. And by the end of it, everything is going to change.
One afternoon, June Yule walked straight past her in the hallway. She had stepped aside politely, holding a tray. She offered in a soft, "Good evening, sir." He did not even turn his head. He did not slow his step. To her, she was furniture, a shadow, a nothing. Martha lowered her eyes and kept walking. She was used to it by now. But that same evening, something happened that showed exactly who she was. June Yule dropped a folded letter without noticing. It slipped from his coat as he passed. Martha saw it fall. She picked it up. She saw that it was from his late mother, old, worn, precious. She could have ignored it. She could have thrown it away. She owed this cold man nothing. Instead, she set it carefully on his desk, exactly where he would find it. She smoothed the creases gently. She placed it with respect. Then she left, and she never mentioned it. She never asked for thanks. He never even knew she had done it. That was Martha, kind in the dark, loyal to a man who could not even see her face. She did not do good things to be noticed. She did them because it was who she was. And that, right there, is the difference between her and everyone else in that glittering house.
Then came the night that changed everything. A storm rolled in hard and fast. The wind howled against the tall windows. Rain fell in sheets so thick you could not see the gardens. Then the power across the whole estate went black. Every light, every screen, gone. The great house fell into darkness and silence. And then came the sound no one wanted to hear. Trouble. At the far gate. An ambush. Enemies had chosen this exact moment to strike. June Yule's men scattered into the storm to defend the grounds. Shouts echoed, footsteps pounded. In the chaos, June Yule found himself locked in the safe wing of the house. And he was not alone. With him, in that dark and quiet room, was one other person, Martha. For hours they waited together. They listened to the storm. They listened to the distant shouting. There was nothing to do but wait. And in the waiting, something cracked open. Two people stripped of their roles. No boss, no servant, just a man and a woman in the dark. And for the very first time, they talked, honestly, truly. He asked her a question he had never thought to ask anyone. "Why do you stay?" he said. "People treat you like nothing here. Why do you stay?" Martha was quiet for a moment. Then she answered, soft and steady. "Because I choose where I place my worth," she said. "Not them, me." He had no reply for that, none at all. For the first time in years, someone had said something that reached past his walls. He looked at her in the dim light, really looked, and he saw, just for a moment, a strength that matched his own. "Tell me something," he said quietly. "Have you ever been afraid, truly afraid?" Martha almost laughed, but it was a soft, sad sound. "Every single day of my life," she said. "Fear is not the absence of strength. Strength is what you do while you are afraid." June Yule had never heard it put that way before. He had spent his whole life pretending he felt no fear at all. And here was this woman telling him that fear was not the enemy, that courage lived inside the fear, not outside of it. "Who taught you that?" he asked. "My mother," she said. "She was the strongest person I ever knew, and she had nothing, nothing but her spine and her love, and that was enough to raise me." June Yule was silent for a long moment. "I had everything," he said finally, "and I feel like I have nothing." Martha turned to look at him in the dark. "Then maybe," she said gently, "you've been counting the wrong things." The words settled into him like a stone dropped into deep water. He looked at her in the dim light, really looked, and he saw just for a moment a strength that matched his own.
That night, in the quiet and the fear and the raw honesty, the distance disappeared. Just once, just for one vulnerable, unguarded night, two lonely people found something in each other that neither of them had expected to find. And when morning came, something had changed that neither of them was ready to name.
By sunrise, the ice was already returning to his eyes. Jun-Yul awoke and remembered who he was supposed to be. He straightened his walls, he rebuilt his cold, he locked everything away again, and he treated that night as though it had never happened at all. He would not allow himself to feel it. Feeling was weakness, he had sworn that long ago. He said to her, coolly, without meeting his gaze, "Last night was a mistake," he said. "Forget it." Martha felt those words land like a slap across the face. Something inside her went quiet and cold. But she would not let him see her break. She would never give him that. She thought to herself, of course, to him I was never even real, just a warm body in the dark room, nothing more. She nodded once, calm and proud. She held her head high. Then she walked away, her spine straight and her heart quietly shattering behind her ribs. She did not cry in front of him. She saved her tears for later, alone, where no one could see. And that right there tells you everything about the kind of woman Martha Thomas was. She could be broken, but she would never be broken in front of the man who did it.
And just like that, he went back to ignoring her. He went back to the parade of glamorous women who circled him constantly. Each one desperate to be the one. Each one wanted to give him a child and claim his vow. They saw him as a prize, a crown to be won, an empire to be seized. None of them saw the man. None of them cared to. But now there were vultures in the house, and their eyes were sharp. There was a woman in his circle, stunning, ruthless, cold as winter steel. She had decided that empire would be hers, no matter the cost. She would do anything, lie, cheat, hurt, kill, anything at all. And beside her, whispering poison into her ear, stood one of Jun-Yul's most trusted men, a lieutenant, a right hand, a traitor in waiting. He had served for years, and he had grown tired of serving. He was hungry now, hungry to rule, hungry to take what he believed he deserved. Together, the two of them made a plan, a dark one, and the first obstacle they marked for removal was the quiet woman who saw too much, Martha. Because Martha noticed things, Martha understood things, and people who notice too much are dangerous to people with secrets. The ruthless woman cornered her one day in an empty hall. "You are nothing here," she said, "a servant. Do not forget your place, or I will remind you of it painfully." Martha looked her dead in the eyes. She did not flinch. She did not shrink. "My place," she said, "is wherever I decide to stand." Then she walked away, leaving the beautiful woman fuming behind her. But Martha was not just brave. She was brilliant, and soon the whole house was going to learn it. A theft was uncovered in the estate accounts. It was a slow bleed of money, quiet, clever, hidden. Someone was stealing a fortune, a little at a time, and covering their tracks perfectly. The finest men Jun-Yul employed came empty. They could not trace it. They stared at the numbers for days and found nothing. And then, quietly, without fanfare, Martha laid a folder on his desk. She did not announce it. She did not make a show. She simply placed it down. Inside was everything, Every hidden transaction, every false name, every stolen cent, all of it traced back to its exact source, laid out clearly, undeniably. Jun-Yul stared at the pages. His men had failed, and this woman had solved it. He looked up at her stunned. "How?" he asked. "How did you do this?" Martha answered simply, "I noticed the numbers did not breathe right, so I followed them." I noticed the numbers did not breathe right, so I followed them. Jun-Yul stared at her. Then he stared harder. He truly stared, for the first time in his life. He saw her, not the servant, not the shadow, her. He thought to himself, "Who is this woman I have been walking past all this time? Who is she, really?" Something shifted in him that day, a flicker of curiosity, a crack of respect, and beneath it, something warmer that he refused to name. He did not have a word for it, he did not want one, but it was there now, and it would not go away.
There were moments after that, small ones, charged ones. A shared look across a crowded room, a sentence that lingered a beat too long. A tension between them that neither could deny, no matter how hard they tried. But every single time they drifted close, something pulled them apart. His duty would call. The empire always needed him. The ruthless woman would appear, interrupting, watching with jealous eyes. His cold walls would slam back down without warning. He would catch himself softening toward Martha, and then he would punish himself for it. He would lie awake at night alone in his enormous bed and stare at the ceiling. "She means nothing," he would think. "She means nothing. She means nothing." He repeated it like a prayer, like a shield. And he would almost believe it. Almost. But the truth kept slipping through the cracks in his walls. He thought about her when she was not there. He looked for her in every room. He noticed when she was gone. He noticed everything about her now. The cold man was cracking, and he hated himself for it. Because caring meant weakness, and weakness meant pain, and he had sworn never again. Meanwhile, Martha kept her own heart guarded just as tightly. She would not fall for a man who called their night a mistake. She would not give herself to someone who could not even see her in daylight. She had her pride, she had her dignity, and she held on to them with both hands. Still, there were nights she lay awake thinking about him, about the man in the dark room during the storm, the one who had asked her real questions, the one who had listened, the one who, at a moment, had seemed almost human. Where did that man go, she wondered? Was he ever real at all? Or was he just a ghost that appeared for one night and vanished by morning? She told herself to stop. She told herself he was cold and cruel and closed. She told herself she deserved better than a man who called her a mistake. And she was right. She did deserve better. But the heart does not always listen to reason, not even a heart as strong as hers. So she buried her feelings deep. She focused on her work. She kept her walls high. She would not be the fool who fell for a man who could not love her back. She had her pride. She had her dignity. And she held on to them with both hands. But her body was about to reveal a secret her mind was not ready for.
Then, one quiet morning, Martha stood alone in a small bathroom. She was staring down at something in her trembling hands. Her heart pounded against her ribs. Her whole world tilted sideways. She had suspected for days the tiredness, the sickness, the strange new feeling in her body. But now she knew. Now she had proof. She whispered to herself, barely making a sound. "No," she said, "not now, not like this." She gripped the edge of the sink. She stared at her own reflection. 100 thoughts crashed through her mind at once. She would carry the answer to his vow,
the very thing every scheming woman in that house was desperate to have, and she would also carry the very reason she could never tell him, because telling him would change everything, and not in the way you might think.
If you are still watching at this point, I need you to do something for me, right now. Drop a comment. Type these words, "I am still here." I am still here. Let me see who is truly following this shocking story all the way through. Because from this moment on, everything is about to change. The secret, the escape, the years of silence, and the reunion no one saw coming. I want to know who is with me until the very end. So comment, "I am still here," and let us keep going, because it only gets bigger from here. The test was true. Martha was pregnant. She sat with that truth for a long time, alone, as she had faced everything else in her life. And slowly, painfully, she began to make a decision. She thought it through the way she thought through everything, carefully, completely. If I tell him, she thought, I become just like them, a woman using a child to trap a powerful man. He will look at me with disgust. He will think I planned this. He will think I am one of the schemers, and I would rather he never know than have him look at me that way. But there was more to her fear than pride, much more. His world was soaked in danger, ambushes in the night, enemies at the gate, danger in the dark. She could not raise a child inside all that danger. She would not. A baby deserved safety, peace, love, not bulletproof glass and armed guards. And her heart, already broken by his coldness, could not survive staying near him. She could not love a man every day who would never love her back. It would destroy her slowly, piece by piece, and she had a child to be strong for now. So she made the hardest choice of her life. She would leave, quietly, completely, and she would carry this child alone. She would give her baby a life full of love, even if she had to build it from nothing. She packed one small bag, just the essentials, nothing more. She left a short resignation note on the counter, polite, simple, final. And before the sun fully rose, Martha Thomas walked out of that estate. She did not look back. She could not afford to. She stepped into the cold morning air, one hand resting on her belly, and she vanished.
When Jun Yul learned she was gone, something strange happened inside him. A hollow feeling, one he had never known before. He stood in the empty hallway where she used to greet him every evening, and for the first time he felt the silence of her absence. The house was the same, the staff was the same, the power was the same, but something was missing, something important, and he could not name it. He told himself it was nothing, just one servant leaving. It happened all the time. He was wrong. He was so completely wrong. He would walk past her old station and pause without knowing why. He would expect to hear her voice and be met with silence. He would think of her sharp mind, her steady eyes, her quiet strength, and he would push the thoughts away, angry at himself for having them. She was gone, and the cold man told himself he did not care. But the hollow space in his chest told a different story. It just would take him 2 long years to finally understand what it meant.
Now let time move forward. Nearly 2 years, 2 whole years. In a small town, far from that cold and glittering empire, Martha built a new life. She built it from almost nothing, from grit, from love, from sheer determination. She worked long hours. She took every shift she could. She stretched every single coin until it screamed. She was exhausted in a way that lived deep in her bones. Some nights she was too tired to eat. Some nights she cried when no one could hear. But every single night she came home to the only thing that mattered: her son. A beautiful little boy with her warm smile and, unmistakably, his father's eyes. The same sharp, striking eyes she had once been ignored by. Every time she looked at him, she saw Yeon-yul, and her heart ached and swelled at the same time. She would hold her son close in the quiet dark. "You are the best thing I ever did," she would whisper to him, "and I will give you the whole world, even if I have to build it with my bare hands." She was tired. She was struggling. Money was always short. But she had never in her life been stronger. Because now she had a reason, a purpose, a tiny heartbeat that depended on her completely. And a mother with a purpose is the most unstoppable force on earth. There were hard days, so many hard days. Days when the money ran out before the month did. Days when she chose between the electric bill and a warm meal. Days when her son was sick and she could not miss a shift. She would hold him through fevered nights and go to work exhausted the next morning. She would smile for her customers with a heart full of worry. She never let her son see the fear. She never let him see the tears. To him, their tiny apartment was a castle, and she was the queen who made it magic. She turned cheap bread and a candle into a birthday feast. She turned old boxes into rocket ships and pillow forts into kingdoms. She gave him a childhood of wonder, built from almost nothing at all. And every night, no matter how tired she was, she read to him. She told him he was smart. She told him he was kind. She told him he could be anything. She gave him the one thing she had always wanted for herself: to be seen, to be valued, to be loved without condition. Because now she had a reason, a purpose, a tiny heartbeat that depended on her completely. And a mother with a purpose is the most unstoppable force on earth.
Meanwhile, back in that glittering empire, Yeon-yul had changed too. He had grown even more powerful. His reach was wider. His name was bigger. And he had never in his life been more empty. He had everything, and he had nothing. Still no air. Still no warmth. Still no one who truly knew his heart. Still hunted by rivals who wanted his throne for themselves. He would sit at that same long table where he made his vow, and he would feel the cold seat beside him. Empty. Always empty. He did not understand what was wrong with him. He had power, he had wealth, he had everything a man could want. So why did every day feel like walking through a beautiful, silent tomb? He did not have the answer. Not yet. Sometimes, late at night, a memory would surface without warning. A dark room, a storm, a woman with steady eyes and a voice full of quiet strength. "Maybe you have been counting the wrong things," she had said. The words haunted him. He did not know why. He had counted his money 1,000 times. It never made him feel full. He had counted his power, his territory, his men. None of it filled the hollow space. What were the right things then? What had he failed to count? He did not know, and the not knowing gnawed at him more each passing day. He would look at the empty chair beside him and feel a strange, aching pull, as if some part of his life had walked out a door 2 years ago and never come back. He told himself he did not miss her.
He told himself he had forgotten her name. Both were lies, and somewhere deep inside, he knew it. He did not have the answer, not yet. But the vultures circling him had not given up, and they were about to make their move. The ruthless woman finally made her play. She announced falsely that she was carrying his child. She smiled as she said it. She had planned this for a long time. She produced forged papers. She brought in a bought doctor to swear it was true. It was all a lie, every word of it, a scheme to force the vow. If he believed she carried his heir, he would have to marry her, and through that marriage she would seize the empire from the inside. The treacherous lieutenant stood behind her, smiling his cold smile. Through this fake marriage, he would finally control everything he had ever wanted. The two of them had built the perfect trap, and it was closing fast. Jun-Yul could feel the walls of it, even if he could not yet see the hands behind it. Something felt wrong. His instincts, sharp as ever, screamed at him. But he had no proof, only a cold feeling in his gut. He needed time. He needed answers. And fate was about to hand him both in the most shocking way imaginable.
Then fate stepped in, the way it always does. Jun-Yul's empire moved to acquire a business in a distant town, and this time he traveled there himself to close the deal in person. It was an ordinary building on an ordinary street in a quiet, unremarkable town. He had no idea it would break his entire world open, because working inside that building was Martha. He walked through the doors, he looked across the room, and he froze. 2 years of buried feeling crashed over him all at once. There she was, the woman he had ignored, the woman he had lost, the woman he could not forget. And then he saw the small hand she was holding. A little boy stood beside her, looking up, watching the strange, tall man in the doorway. And the boy had eyes, sharp eyes, striking eyes, painfully, impossibly familiar eyes. His own eyes. Jun-Yul's breath stopped in his chest. His mind refused to accept what his eyes already knew. He looked at the child. He looked at Martha. He looked at the child again. The room seemed to spin around him. Martha went cold with fear. She saw him. She saw his face change. She pulled her son close against her body and turned to leave, her heart screaming inside her. "No," she thought. "No, no, not here. Not like this. Please, God, not like this." But Jun-Yul stepped into her path. His voice shook in a way no one had ever heard from him before. "That child," he said. "Whose is he?" Martha's eyes filled with tears. Her voice broke apart. "Please," she whispered, "just let us go." But he already knew. God help him. He already knew. The truth was standing right in front of him, holding his mother's hand. The truth crashed down like the sky itself was falling. He was the father. The woman he had ignored, the woman he had called a mistake, the woman he had walked past 100 times without seeing. She was the one who had fulfilled his vow all along. 2 years ago, in that dark room, during that storm, she had given him the one thing every scheming woman in his house was desperate to provide: a child, an heir, a son. And then she had walked away without asking him for a single thing. His cold mask shattered into 1,000 pieces right there on that ordinary floor. Shock, fury, grief, and underneath it all, something he had spent his entire life running from. He whispered, barely able to force the words out.
"Then it was always you," he said. "Then it was always you." The whole world went still around them, and everything he thought he knew about his life turned to ash in that single moment.
He stared at her. 2 years of questions burned in his eyes. "You kept my son from me," he said. His voice was low and shaking. "For 2 years." It was not quite an accusation. It was closer to a wound. Martha lifted her chin. Tears were falling now, but her voice stayed steady. "I kept him safe," she said, "from your world, from your coldness, from your dangerous life, from becoming a prize in your cruel little vow." Junyu flinched. Every word she said was true, and the truth cut him to the bone. He had made that vow in arrogance. He had called their night a mistake. He had given her every reason to run, and she had run to protect their child. "I would have provided for him," he said. Martha shook her head slowly. "He did not need your money," she said. "He needed safety and love and a mother who was whole. I could not be whole in your house, so I left, and I would do it again." Junyu had no answer, because she was right, and he knew it. But he was still Junyu, and he still did not know how to do this the right way. So he did the only thing a man like him knew how to do. He tried to take control.
"I will honor my vow," he said. His voice hardened, retreating into the familiar cold. "I will marry you. He is my heir. You will both come home with me." It was not a question. It was a command, the command of a man used to being obeyed. But Martha was not one of his men, and she would not be commanded. She shook her head slowly, firmly, completely. "No," she said. The word hung in the air between them. "I will not be married out of duty," she said. "I will not be claimed like property. I will not be a prize you collect to satisfy a promise you made drunk on power." She stepped closer to him. Her voice trembled with everything she had held inside for 2 long years. "You ignored me for years," she said. "You looked straight through me like I was glass, and now you want me only because I gave you a son. Not because you see me, not because you know me, only because of him." She took a shaking breath, and then she said the words that struck him to his core. "If you cannot see me," she said, "the woman, not the vow, not the heir, just me, then you cannot have me at all." And in that moment, Junyu had no answer, because he did not yet know how to love. He only knew how to possess. He knew how to take, how to own, how to control. But love was a language he had never learned to speak. And Martha would accept nothing less. But the world would not give them time to figure it out, because the vultures had found out too. The ruthless woman and the traitor lieutenant learned the terrible truth. There was a real heir now, a real son, a real mother, and both of them stood directly in the way of everything the schemers had planned. If Junyu had a true heir, the fake pregnancy meant nothing. If Junyu loved this woman, the forced marriage would never happen. Martha and her little boy were a threat now, a threat that had to be removed. So the schemers made their darkest decision yet. They decided to eliminate the problem permanently. The first attack came without warning. Men appeared in the shadows near Martha's small home. Her car would not start one morning. Someone had tampered with it. A window shattered in the dark of night. Footsteps in the yard. Someone had come for Martha and her little boy.
She grabbed her son and hid. Her mind raced, her heart pounded. She did the only thing she could think to do in that terrifying moment. And Jun Yul arrived just in time.
He came like a storm. His men flooded the small street. The attackers scattered into the night before they could finish what they came to do. And for the first time in his entire life, the fear that gripped Jun Yul was not for himself. It was for them, for Martha, for his son. He had faced death many times. He had never once been afraid of it. But the thought of losing them, that terrified him in a way nothing ever had. He found Martha holding their trembling son in the corner of the house. He dropped to his knees in front of them. He checked them for injuries with shaking hands. "Are you hurt?" he asked. His voice cracked. "Are you both all right?" Martha stared at him. She had never seen him like this, never. The ice was gone. In its place was raw, naked fear and something else, something like love. He turned to his men and he roared. "Protect them with your lives," he shouted. "Do you understand me? With your lives." He gathered them close and he made a decision. He moved Martha and their son into his most guarded fortress, the safest place in his entire empire, behind walls no enemy had ever broken. And there, forced together under one roof, something began to change.
Because now he saw her, truly saw her. Every day, in the small moments, in the quiet ones, he watched her sing their son to sleep with a soft and gentle voice. He watched her patience, her endless, bottomless patience. He watched her fierce love, the way she would do anything for that little boy. He watched her strength, the strength that had raised a child alone with nothing. He saw the woman he had walked past 100 times, and he could not understand how he had ever been so blind. How had he missed this? How had he looked at gold and seen only a shadow? One night, he found her sitting alone after their son had fallen asleep. He sat down beside her, slowly, carefully, like a man approaching something precious and fragile. "I do not know how to be what you deserve," he said quietly. The words did not come easily. He had never spoken them to anyone. "I have been cold my whole life," he said. "I learned it to survive, but it cost me everything. It cost me you. It cost me him. It cost me 2 years I can never get back." He looked at her, and his eyes were open in a way they had never been. "I want to learn," he said. "I want to learn how to be better for him, for you. Will you let me try?" And for the first time, Martha saw a real crack in the ice, and behind it, something true, something worth believing in. She did not answer right away. She had been hurt too badly to trust easily. But she did not say no. And that, for now, was enough.
The little boy warmed to him too, slowly, the way children do. Small hands began reaching for the tall, quiet man, a father who was learning, clumsily and honestly, how to love. Jun-yul did not know how to play at first. He was stiff, awkward, unsure. But he tried. He got down on the floor. He let the boy climb on him. He learned how to laugh again. He had forgotten what it sounded like. He would carry his son on his shoulders through the vast halls of his fortress. He would read to him at night, stumbling over the silly voices, and the boy would giggle. And Martha would watch from the doorway, and her guarded heart would soften just a little more each day. The frozen man was thawing. He was thawing for a family he never knew he needed. For a few precious days there was peace, real peace. There was warmth in that cold fortress for the first time in years. There was the fragile, beautiful beginning of something none of them had dared to hope for. They ate meals together, they laughed, they began to feel like a family. Junyol would look at the two of them and feel his chest ache with something new, not power, not territory, this. One evening he found Martha in the kitchen. She was cooking, something simple, something warm. He stood in the doorway and watched her for a long moment. "You do not have to do that," he said. "I have people for that." Martha smiled without turning around. "I know," she said. "I want to. Cooking for the people you love is a kind of prayer." Junyol did not understand it, but he wanted to. "Show me," he said. And so, for the first time in his life, the feared Mafia Boss learned to chop an onion. He was terrible at it. Martha laughed. He laughed too. Their son ran in and demanded to help. Flour ended up everywhere. For one perfect hour in that warm kitchen, they were not a boss and a servant and an heir. They were just a family, making a mess, making memories, making a home. Later that night, after their son was asleep, Junyol sat beside Martha again. "I have killed men without blinking," he said quietly. "I have destroyed empires, but I have never been as afraid as I am right now." "Afraid of what?" she asked. "Of losing this," he said, "now that I know what it feels like." Martha reached over and took his hand. It was the first time she had done so freely. "Then don't lose it," she said. "Choose it every single day. That's all love is, choosing each other, over and over, even when it's hard." Junyol held her hand tightly, and he made a silent promise. He thought to himself, This is what I was missing all along. Not more power, not more territory, this." But peace never lasts in a story like this one, because the darkest hour always comes right before the dawn.
The traitor made his move. The lieutenant had waited long enough. His patience had run out. He launched his coup from the inside in the dead of night. He turned men against Junyol, men who had served for years, men who were promised gold and power. The empire erupted into sudden, violent chaos, alarms, shouting, loyalties shattering at all once. And in the confusion of that terrible night, the ruthless woman played her final card. Her fake pregnancy scheme was collapsing. Her lies were falling apart. So she went for the most desperate, most vicious move of all. She took them. Martha and the little boy, ripped from the safety of the fortress, snatched into the dark. By the time Junyol fought his way through the chaos, they were gone. He burst into their room, and it was empty, empty. A single note lay on the floor where his family should have been. A ransom, a trap, a cruel and simple message. If he ever wanted to see them alive again, he would surrender everything. The empire, the power, his life, all of it. Junyol fell to his knees in that empty room, and the cold, untouchable, feared Mafia Boss broke completely. He picked up the note with shaking hands. He read it again and again. "I found them, only to lose them. No, not again, never again." And then, slowly, he rose to his feet, and something in his eyes turned to fire. Now let me tell you what love does to a truly dangerous man. Junyol unleashed everything, every resource, every loyal soul who still stood with him, every ounce of the power he had built over a lifetime. But this time, it was not for money, not for territory, not for pride. It was for his family, the only thing that had ever truly mattered.
The feared boss became something far more terrifying than the world had ever seen. He became a man with nothing left to lose and everything worth dying for. There is no force on earth more dangerous than that. He tore through the city looking for them. He shook down every enemy. He called in every debt. He did not sleep. He did not stop. He did not rest for a single moment. His men had never seen him this way, cold rage and desperate love burning together. He grabbed one of his oldest enemies by the collar and slammed him against the wall. "Where are they?" he demanded. His voice was pure ice. "Where has she taken them?" The man had never seen fear like the fear he felt in that moment. He talked. Everyone talked, because a man protecting his family fights differently. He fights like the world is ending, because for him it is. Jun-Yul followed every thread. He chased every rumor. He knocked down every door. Hours passed, then a full day. He did not eat. He did not sleep. His body screamed for rest. He ignored it completely. Somewhere out there, his son was afraid. Somewhere out there, Martha was in danger, and he would burn the whole world down before he let them be harmed. "I am coming," he thought. "Hold on, just hold on. I am coming for you both." But here's what the enemies forgot. In all their scheming, in all their planning, they forgot exactly who Martha Thomas was.
They forgot that Martha was not helpless. Locked away with her son, most people would have crumbled. Most people would have wept and waited and prayed for rescue. Not Martha. That brilliant mind of hers went quietly to work. The same mind that had traced hidden money through a maze of perfect lies. The same mind that had seen patterns no one else could see. She watched the guards. She studied them from the corner of her eye. She learned their routines, when they changed shifts, when they grew careless. She memorized every door, every hallway, every lock, every weakness. She held her frightened son close and whispered to him in the dark. "Be brave, my love," she said. "Mama is going to get us out of here. I have never lost a fight that was for you, and I'm not going to start now." And then, from the inside, she began to take her captors apart. She whispered to one guard that another was planning to betray them. She let a small lie slip here, a false rumor there, seeds of doubt and distrust. She turned careless men against each other with nothing but her words and her wits. She spoke softly to the young guard, the one who looked uncertain, the one with kind eyes. "You have a family," she said. "I can tell. You do not want to be part of this." The young guard said nothing, but his eyes flickered. His guilt showed. "When this falls apart, and it will," she said, "remember that you helped a mother and a child. That could be the thing that saves you in the end." She planted the seed, and she waited for it to grow. She counted footsteps in the hall. She learned when the guards were tired. She noticed which locks were old, which windows were weak, which doors were left unwatched. She kept her son calm with quiet games and whispered stories. "We are on an adventure," she told him, "and adventures are scary sometimes, but Mama always finds the way out. Always. Do you trust me?" The little boy nodded against her chest. "Yes, Mama." "Good," she whispered. "Then hold my hand and be brave. Help is coming, I promise." And she was right, because she had made sure of it. She turned careless men against each other with nothing but her words and her wits. The overlooked woman, the invisible one, the one they all underestimated. She was about to become the reason their entire plan fell apart. Because the most dangerous person in a room is the one everyone ignores.
When Jun-Yul finally stormed the enemy stronghold, he braced for the worst.
He expected to find a helpless victim, a hostage, a woman waiting to be saved. That is not what he found. He found chaos, chaos that Martha had already set in motion from within. Guards were fighting each other, turned against one another by her clever whispers. Doors that should have been locked stood open, a path already carved toward freedom. His force struck from the outside, her mind struck from the inside, at the exact same moment, in perfect, unplanned harmony. The ruthless woman and the traitor lieutenant were caught between them, trapped, with nowhere left to run. The lieutenant snarled, his back against the wall. "This empire should have been mine," he spat. Jun-Yul answered him, cold as the man he used to be, calm as death itself. "You were never worthy of anything you touched," he said. The battle was short after that, and it was final. The traitor's men, already turned against one another by Martha, fell apart completely. The coup collapsed, the lies unraveled, the schemers had nothing left. In the end, the schemers fell. Their lies collapsed around them like a house of cards in the wind. The fake pregnancy was exposed. The forged papers turned to dust. The bought doctor confessed everything. The whole cruel plot came apart at the seams. The ruthless woman who had wanted an empire was left with nothing at all. The traitor lieutenant who had wanted a throne was left only with chains. Their plot crumbled into nothing, and justice, long overdue, finally landed. The empire was secure once more, but that was not what mattered now, because there, in the middle of the wreckage and the smoke, Jun-Yul found her, Martha, standing tall, their son safe in her arms. She had protected him through all of it. She had never once stopped fighting. And in that moment, Jun-Yul understood the truth completely. She never needed him to save her. She had saved herself. She had saved their son. She was the strongest person he had ever known, and he had almost been too blind to see it. He crossed the room to her slowly, stepping over the wreckage of his enemies. He stopped in front of her, and then he did something no one had ever seen him do. The man who had never bowed to anyone in his life sank down onto one knee, not on the battlefield, not to an enemy, to her. "Martha," he said. His voice was raw, honest, stripped of every wall he had ever built. "I am not kneeling because of a vow," he said. "Forget the vow, burn it, it never mattered. I am kneeling because of you, only you." Tears welled in Martha's eyes as she listened. "Because you are the strongest person I have ever known," he said, "the kindest, the most brilliant, the most extraordinary. And I spent years too blind and too cold to see the treasure walking past me every single day." His voice broke. He did not try to hide it, not anymore. "I do not want you because you made me a father," he said. "I want you because my life is empty without you in it. Not as a duty, not as a prize, not as an heir's mother, as my equal, as my partner, as my heart." He looked up at her, and all the walls were gone. "Will you have me, Martha?" he asked, "knowing I will spend the rest of my life learning to deserve you." And Martha, the woman who had been ignored, mocked, and overlooked for so long, the woman who had been called nothing, the woman who had been walked past like glass,
She finally heard the words she had waited a lifetime to hear. Not a command, not a claim, not a cold arrangement, but love, real, humble, seeing love. She reached out with a trembling hand and touched his face. "Yes," she whispered, "but not because you asked," she said, "and not because of any vow, because you finally see me, the real me, and that is all I ever wanted." And their little boy, watching their parents, laughed with delight. He reached out his small arms towards them both. He pulled his mother and his father together at last. 3 people, broken in different ways, finally becoming whole together. A family, the one thing none of them believed they could have.
Time moved forward one final time. The wedding was not loud, it was not glittering, it was not a show for scheming eyes. It was warm, it was small, it was real. A man who had once been made entirely of ice stood in the sunlight. He held his family close, and he was whole for the very first time in his life. Martha wore no crown. She needed none. She had something far more valuable. She was seen. She was loved. She was chosen, fully and freely. The invisible woman became the beating heart of an empire. The overlooked one became the most treasured person in it. And their son grew up in a home filled with love, not fear. He grew up with a father who read him stories every night without fail. He grew up with a mother whose strength had built his whole world. And the coldest man who ever lived learned the greatest lesson of all. He learned that the greatest power in the world was never fear. It was never money. It was never control. It was never an empire. It was being truly seen by someone and choosing to love them back.
So let me ask you something before you go. How many people have you walked past without truly seeing them? How many quiet, strong, overlooked people are standing right beside you? People carrying whole worlds inside them that no one bothers to notice. Maybe you have been Martha, unseen, underestimated, but stronger than anyone knew. If you have, then I want you to remember something tonight. Your worth was never in their eyes. It was never up to them to decide. Your worth was always in you. It always will be. The people who cannot see you are not your judges. They are simply blind. And one day, the right person will look at you and finally see everything you are, just like Junior finally saw Martha. Do not shrink yourself to be noticed by people who are not looking. Stand tall, know your worth, and wait for the ones who see it too. Because being truly seen by even one person changes everything. Think about Martha for a moment. She could have grown bitter. She could have grown cold. The world gave her every reason to. It ignored her. It mocked her. It underestimated her. But she chose kindness anyway. She chose strength anyway. She chose love anyway. And in the end, that choice is what made her unbreakable. Not her circumstances, not her luck, her choices. She decided who she was going to be, and she never let anyone else decide it for her. That is a power that no one can ever take from you. The world may not see you today. It may walk past you 100 times, but keep being who you are. Keep your dignity, keep your kindness, keep your fire, because the right eyes will find you, and when they do, they will not look away. And even if they never do, you will still know your own worth. And that, my friend, is the only thing that ever truly mattered. The people who overlook you are writing their own regret. Just like Junior spent 2 years regretting every day he walked past his greatest treasure.
Do not become someone else's regret to escape being unseen. Become the person who knew their value all along and waited for the world to catch up. Because it will. In time, it always does. If this story touched you, if Martha's strength moved you, then do 3 things for me right now. First, hit that like button. It tells me you felt something. It helps this story reach others. Second, subscribe to this channel so you never miss a story like this one again. And third, drop a comment and tell me, did Jun-Yeol truly deserve her in the end? Was his change real? Did he earn her forgiveness? Or did she deserve even better? I read every single comment, every one, and I want to hear what you think. Thank you for staying with me until the very last word. Thank you for caring about Martha and about her son and even about the cold man who learned to love. This was a story about being overlooked and about finally being seen. And if you have ever felt invisible, I hope tonight you feel a little less alone. I will see you in the next story. Until then, take care of yourself and never let anyone make you feel like less than you are.